and Robbie Ray, who still is working his way back from Tommy John surgery. The Giants looked at the rest of the National League West, specifically the Dodgers with their wealth of superstar talent, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the reigning National League champions, and a Padres team that's here in Korea and certainly better than a lot of critics would suggest. At that landscape, the Giants realized they simply had to make some more moves, and really they've had a pretty productive offseason overall. They've welcomed in a new manager in Bob Melvin, who knows Blake Snell very well from their time together just last season with the San Diego Padres, and the Giants have added some notable free agents such as Jorge Soler and Matt Chapman as well. This is a lineup that, perhaps not like the Dodgers that have added superstars like Ohtani and Yamamoto, the Giants have done a job of really adding incrementally to their roster during the course of the offseason and now into spring training. The big question, of course, with Snell will be, when is he going to be ready to pitch? He had been throwing for scouts near his home in the Seattle area, but it's not a competitive situation. And so for the Giants, who really need some help right now alongside Logan Webb, their ace in the starting rotation, it's going to be a big question and probably one that can't be answered immediately as to how Blake Snell is going to get game ready with the regular season beginning domestically next week. Now, the rest of the free agent market, well, there are still some pretty notable names out there. Jordan Montgomery, a fellow Scott Boras client, his name comes to mind, and the Astros. One would assume that both the Yankees and Astros could also be fits for Jordan Montgomery, so stay tuned there. JD Martinez, probably the best bat still available. His name had been linked with the Miami to begin the season now for the Miami Marlins. So I would say that, with all due respect to JD Martinez, who had a really good year last year as the Dodgers DH, the better free agent fit at the moment for the Marlins might well be Michael Lorenzen. It's the backdrop of the start of the Major League season here in Seoul, South Korea, a 2-game series between the Padres and the Dodgers. We'll have more on that story next on MLB Tonight with Brian Kenny, Yonder Alonso, and Ruben Amaro.
All right, let's go to the Phillies and Yankees. Here's something that will warm your heart. Joe Torre out there in a Yankee uniform.
How about that? He comes and pitches the way he can pitch. Because if they do not get that Carlos Rodon, I mean, they're going to be in trouble. Because you lose Cole, and you've invested in making that deal to get Soto, and you knocked out a lot of your depth in your rotation. My goodness, if he doesn't step up, they're going to be in trouble.
This is a window. Maybe a guy like Blake Snell for 2 years in New York makes sense, right? Put him in there as well.
Well, let me throw in two things. One, that this was a big start for Rodon. You're right. If he looks good, it's all the difference in the world. Here is the issue, and you can put Snell in on this. Rodon is a mercurial performer. Look at him in those 2 years. He's number 1 in Ks per 9, number 1 in all of baseball in missing bats. His ERA is 2.67. That's a fantastic pitcher. That's why they signed him to a $175 million contract. Last year was a disaster. A 6.85, 64 innings, and he was lost on the mound.
You think a lot of GMs, and this is a question from a player, when they're going into a free agency year, that they look at themselves as a comp? Because there are players, like when I played, I said, okay, I can kind of fit in this model right here. Maybe a guy like Blake Snell is looking at a guy like Rodon, and maybe GMs are also looking at that problem and saying, I'm not going to go and sign a guy like Blake Snell because of what I've had in the past.
There's got to be a little trepidation about making that deal. And I think we talked about it ad nauseum, but it's really about whether or not the guy can really log the innings. What Snell are you going to get? And now that he's not pitching until maybe May, that's a real concern.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, what do you expect out of Rodon this year?
I expect about 150 to 170 innings.
If he's healthy, he's going to deal. If he's healthy, he's got unbelievable stuff, and he throws anywhere the way he threw. Now, it wasn't like the Phillies A lineup that he was featuring, but it was the crispness of his stuff that was the most impressive part of that.
180 is the new 200. 170, 180.
That's all you get.
I think I would get a guy like that, and I'll say, okay, let's go.
I mean, that would be great, and they need it.
Great.
If they don't get that from him, then they might be in real trouble with the fact that they
Juan Soto, they gave up a lot of that depth.
They sure did.
That they had. And then because I had the big guy in Garrett Cole. Now they don't have the big guy at the very top, at least at the start of the year. We'll take a short break. When we come back,